Hello and welcome to today's SIG CLI Kustomize bug scrub. My name is Katrina Veery, my pronouns are she, her, and I'll be leading the bug scrub today. Today we don't have that many issues pending without triage, so if we have time, we might also go over the draft roadmap that we've been working on. But before we dive in, I just want to remind everyone that this meeting is subject to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which in short means be nice to each other, and I will paste it in the chat for your reference. Thank you everyone for coming today. So yeah, let's get started. We can check out the triage board here, the link from the chat. As you can see, we only have 4 issues. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yep.
All right, so diving into the first one here, load restrictor. Load restrictor can be tricky. It's trying to prevent cycles, basically. And you can override it on the command line, but that's not recommended. So here's a direct link to the issue. Let's see what this one's about. With limited number of allowed parent directory to be traversed. Interesting suggestion. So there's only 2 modes. What I was referring to is that you can bypass the command line flag to just not use the load restrictor. So it's an all or nothing kind of policy right now. And they're proposing that they be able to configure it. It's interesting because I think having a blanket policy of like load restrictor limited or something like that wouldn't be particularly helpful for security because you don't know where the customization directory is. Maybe it is 2 directories down from something you really don't want folks to be accessing. So if we were to do this, I think it would have to be not a certain number, but a specified number like that is passed in as part of the load restrictor flag. Let me just double check what that looks like. It is on build. Yeah, okay, so the flag is just like -- load restrictor and currently takes value exactly like what they've pasted here. So load restrictions none, like that's the actual override value. Natasha, what do you think about this suggestion?
I also think it's interesting. I guess I don't have a strong reason against it. I agree with what you said, that it should be a specified number. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're specifically talking about the Helm chart inflation generator where they want to share values across overlays. I'm wondering why they can't do that. Yeah, okay. That probably does make sense. Never mind.
Another thought that I just had was for Kustomize localize. We sort of have a similar notion where you can specify the scope directory that is outside of the customization directory. You can say, don't go past this directory. So that's another option instead of a certain number specifying a particular parent directory.
Okay, yeah, that's super interesting. I think we might have a really old issue So if we wanted to flip that same idea, you could say the scope is always the current directory, but you can specify which customization you want to build by passing a path to the customization. And like right now that uses the target customization as the scope. There was an old issue that it was requesting something about targeting. Maybe it was different customization file names. Of course, everything mentions that. Build targets, sure. Maybe it's this that I'm thinking of. Should I customize edit? I see. Yeah, okay, this is the one I was thinking of, and it's about edit, because you can already pass a path to build. And it's just not used. The current directory just isn't used in that case. Okay, I really like that thought, Natasha, that we have that analogous concept for localize. Maybe we should tag this under consideration and see what Anna thinks, as somebody who has implemented a related feature.
That sounds good.
So probably a flag. And is it kind feature? I would say even if we accepted this, it would probably be priority backlog, and we'd look for a contributor since there's they're not volunteering. Would you agree?
Yep.
All right. The next next one here. Wrong name patching in apps v1. Interesting. This immediately smells like an OpenAPI issue just based on wrong patching in specific version. Let's see. I mean, both of them are absolute ones. And they're saying the name change works, but the container name change doesn't. Oh, that makes sense, because the name change, you don't need the schema to figure out what type of list containers is. And you do need the schema to figure out this. But apps v1 isn't old enough that we wouldn't be picking it up, surely. In 5.0.1. I'm going to try to reproduce this. Shouldn't need to do an overlay because it's just a regular patch. So if I put this just in resources and then view patches. And that should. Wait a minute, they have. Is this used? Overlays test out dp.yaml. Base dp.yaml is imported. That's imported here. But then the patches, oh no, sorry, patch path dp, yeah. I'm not reading. Okay. Okay, so yes, I can reproduce.
I'm a little confused. I'm trying to find it, but the merge key for the containers list, I think, is the name, in which case isn't this expected?
Oh, I see. Because allow name change true applies for the resource name, not the container name.
Yeah.
So that actually doesn't make sense. You're totally right. So does that mean that the schema that we built in has actually already dropped the alternatives that they are trying here, that they're saying work? I guess that's possible,
Possibly.
but I thought we had retained it. Like we're using a really old version, but maybe those were the ones that were dropped in 1.16, like a really, really long time ago. Yeah, you're totally right, though. That is the answer to this question. It's that renaming containers isn't supported. And the reason that it appears to work in these old versions is that Kustomize doesn't support them anymore. And therefore all the containers are being replaced wholesale. Okay, so
you might also want to recommend replacements or a JSON patch.
yes, very good point. The allow name change true option. Would somebody be able to look up when extensions v1 beta 1 was dropped from supported versions?
Looks like 116.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, actually, never mind. The thing I was looking at was talking about a very specific thing under extensions v1 beta 1. Oh wait, no, it is 116. Deployments in the extensions v1 beta 1 API are no longer served.
Okay. And we're at which version?
Let me check. We're at 121.
Group. That's removed and 16. If you're naming a container, you can use the replacements feature or JSON matches. Hopefully resolved. To reopen. And it would be kind support, not kind bug. Okay, does that sound good to everyone?
Yep.
Next, we have an issue about replacements. I shared it in the chat. It was like a custom resources related question.
Something that immediately stood out to me in their customization.yaml in the field path, the second one, the spec.rules one, They're trying to match in that list. They're trying to do backend refs dot name equals something. I don't know if we support that syntax.
I agree. That looks incorrect. I'm not sure if what they're trying to do will work anyway. Maybe it will. It should, because it will let us, I'm just thinking of the implementation. I believe all we're doing is taking the field path, identifying the target R node, and then replacing the value. So we shouldn't notice. No, I think that should work. I would expect it to work if they have the correct syntax.
But I don't think that syntax is correct.
I agree.
Like, I would expect it if they used correct syntax. But they're trying to use nested list elements to select something, and I don't think that works.
Right. I'm going to try to correct the syntax real quick. If anyone else wants to try as well. Replacement syntax can be tricky for sure, because it's more advanced than our other transformers, really.
Mm-hmm.
The other interesting aspect here is that they're saying that they do get a build result. I would expect it to be an error. They didn't fill out the part of the form about what version they're using, so that's kind of annoying. Because okay, I just copied in exactly what they have, and it is complaining that the field can't be found. It's not actually generating, so that's good. Something we might have wanted to fix if it actually succeeded with incorrect output. That actually could be related to the change that we made in 5.0. We made the replacements transformer a bit more strict in that respect.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they're using a 4.x version. So if I just change backend refs.
I think you'll have to use like a number to select that element.
They also have this twice in a row, which is weird. Spec.rules, it's just spec rules backend refs name.
It should be spec rules 0 backend refs 0 name, something like that.
Or like rules wildcard, maybe. What syntax did we go with for that? Was it dot wildcard or index wildcard? I don't remember what we decided.
Yeah, it's just a asterisk.
Like dot asterisk dot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it totally works. Except it is replacing. Wait a second. No, I got it to replace the whole thing, like name want to replace this. It actually replaced the whole element using what I did. Wait, maybe I missed a segment in the path. Yeah, I did. Okay, never mind. It does work. Background ref's name, foo, whatever. Here, I'm gonna. Is this back out where you can see it? So this is what worked for me. And this is the result that I got on the HTTP HTTP route object. So just to show you. So yeah, backend ref's name and then the value that they're selecting. Looks good, right?
Yeah.
No problem. Syntax. Anything else to add?
No, that looks good to me.
Oh, and I didn't do /close. I'm not sure I /closed the other one, did I? I did not. And our last one. Well, Windows binaries. For context, our Windows support is fairly limited because we don't have any contributors who have a Windows setup, and we haven't had anyone contribute to Windows related features in a long time. We asked SIG Windows for participation and got a little bit of interest, but haven't had much work happen in this area in a long time. So we have a bunch of problems, including that a whole section of our test suite doesn't run against Windows. So we unfortunately don't have super high confidence that everything works as expected. So we definitely need a lot of help with Windows. And if anyone works on Windows, then there are plenty of opportunities for helping Kustomize with that. Anyway. Okay, the fact that apparently kubectl is different than us, we usually don't want to diverge from whatever kubectl is doing. So yeah, from the official download site. Yeah, I don't think we're doing it on purpose for specific compression purposes. I'm guessing the reason that it is the way it is based on the release tool that we're using. We're using a tool that just generates all these artifacts for us. And yeah, there they are. So that is configured in the releasing directory here. Is it Cloud Build that has that config, or maybe there's an inline config file in here? Is that how it works? Yeah. So our Windows binaries are generated because we specify GoS Windows here, and we're not really doing anything else in particular about how to package them, right? So the tools go release that. Yeah, so they want exe or zip. Just
Yeah, I was about to say it looks like it has a zip, format zip, and then, but I think it might be exclusive, like you can't do both tar and zip.
So like it will apply to all of the binaries that we
Yeah.
produce. So we would have to build the Windows one separately. Oh. Aha. This looks relevant, right? Archive to zip on Windows. That would be very simple if that works. Is there a more direct link to this specific? Yeah. It's a little bit annoying to test changes to the release pipeline, but if it's that simple, the only hang up that might happen despite this existing, assuming this does what we want it to, would be that we're running a really old version of Go Releaser. There's an issue about that. We have a multi-module repo, and it's very important to be able to release through all the modules. And that became a premium feature in some version, and they changed a bunch of stuff in the interim. So we weren't able to upgrade. And yeah, it's definitely a problem. Anyway, I think we should accept this. It seems like a very reasonable ask. Let's not go. I think we have some instructions for how to test building the binaries.
Did the cloud run local?
Yes. Bubble data remains. Yeah. Either of those methods would work. You just need some way to execute the Go Releaser config in, or to use the Go Releaser config in a realistic environment. So either options. Yeah, I think we could use some help with this. It wouldn't be a priority for the maintainers given all the amount we have on our plate right now, but it seems very reasonable.
Can do that. It sounds very easy.
Yeah. Did you say you can do that?
Yeah.
Awesome. And instead of asking for help, I'll assign you. Awesome, thank you. What is your GitHub handle? Thank you. Yeah, triage accepted. Priority, I'm going to say backlog or important long term. And am I missing a kind feature is good. So that's set. Oh, right. You're not a GitHub org member yet. Hopefully you'll get that settled soon.
Yeah.
So you can assign yourself. All right. Awesome. So did I not put the triage label? It hasn't been picked up yet. It just hasn't been picked up yet. Cool. So that is all for the bug scrub. We were thinking we could take a look at the roadmap. If you're not interested in that, feel free to jump, but everyone's welcome to stick around. we're trying out a new format for this year. So yeah, thank you all for coming, and I guess I'll keep the recording going. It's could be interesting for folks who are interested in Kustomize. Natasha, actually, do you want to direct this part of the conversation? You've been the one leading the roadmap this year.
I can. Were you thinking we'll just go through each issue one by one and explain it?
Yeah, or we're talking about making sure that the priorities seem right, and that the effort seems right, so
Yeah.
that it's ready for people to sort of pick up on.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I guess useful context for everyone would be that the purpose of this roadmap is to help us align with contributors and potential contributors about what we think is the most valuable of the project, because Kustomize has pretty limited bandwidth at this point in time. So we want to make sure that folks who are open to helping the project in a variety of ways have a way to see what will actually get the most maintainer attention. And new to this year, we have this owner column for which of the maintainers and reviewers would have the bandwidth and the context to help guide a contributor who is interested in taking on one of these efforts that we think are really, really important. So it's not like a promise that the maintainers will do all these things. It's more like these are what we think are the most valuable to the project in one way or another.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, we can get started. So the first one, Helm support long-term plan. This one is about the fact that we have a couple of built-in Helm fields that we were hoping we would be able to externalize into KRM functions. But KRM functions is its own huge project, and it's still in alpha with a whole bunch of work to get it into beta and GA. And until then, deprecating the built-in Helm fields doesn't make sense. So this roadmap item is either we make progress on that whole function story, or we revisit what we want to do with the Helm fields, because it's not a great user experience for them to be slated for deprecation for several years. So this is high effort, and we also think it's high value.
Yeah, I guess the only question is, if someone came to us saying that they wanted to help, what would they realistically be able to do?
I think they would need to help bootstrap the functions registry, at least, and probably help with the KRM function caps.
Yeah. Okay,
Or
so
come
it'd
up
be a
with
bunch of
alternative plan.
that's fine. If someone was passionate about Helm, we could guide them to those things, like subtasks, I guess.
Yeah.
We do know it's a very popular feature, so I 100% agree that solidifying the long-term plan for it is very, very valuable.
Yeah.
So next one.
Yeah, prioritize friction with migration from deprecated fields to new fields. We're trying to get ready for customization V1, the customization object itself. It's still on V1 beta 1. And we have a few plans for fields we want to deprecate and replace with new fields. So this item is around making sure that the new fields support all of the important use cases that the old fields supported. And that migration is easy for people who want to upgrade.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of this. The effort is a little unknown. Medium seems like a reasonable place to land it, because it's kind of like as issues come up that are related to this topic throughout the year, we think that those ones are important. There's only a couple open right now, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh, next one. So this one is related. We have 3 fields that handle CRDs. There's the Open API field, the CRDs field, and the configurations field that all sort of do the same thing, but slightly differently. And it's confusing. So when we reach customization V1, we want to have a good story around handling CRDs, and it will probably involve some sort of deprecation or consolidation of these 3 fields.
Mhm.
So this one, we actually don't think that an external contributor will be able to help efficiently. So we're planning to prioritize it ourselves.
Yeah, that could change, I suppose, right?
If someone was really interested and willing to take a lot of time to understand the context and put in the effort, that would be okay.
Yeah, or if I assume we'll do sort of like a mini cap for this, and then once that plan exists, maybe that would be a time we could hand it over to interested parties.
Yeah,
that's good.
Okay. The next one is an administration task. We need to rename our master branch to main, and yeah, we're planning to just get that done sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it's all good, and only we can do it.
Okay. Release automation. Katrina, do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, this is actually related to the comment I made when we were looking at that Windows binary issue. There is actually, it's probably linked here. Let me see. Yeah. So there is not enough automation in it, and it actually depends on GitHub administrators to be running the process, which is not great. We want at least maintainers to all be able to do it. That's the same list of people at this point in time, but we would like for that to be able to be different. And we are not using any of the same tooling as the rest of the Kubernetes project. We're using outdated Go releaser version. So these 2 points that are remaining could be like alternatives. If we take a look at the SIG release tooling and it's way overkill for our situation, or it just doesn't expect this kind of setup we have and would be a ton of work and overhead for it to support us, then I think the like MVP is to find a way to get off of this ancient Go releaser version. And that's just a matter of investigating what the possibilities are. And that's something that we're thinking is good for somebody other than the maintainer team to take on, because we don't actually have, neither of us has any context on the SIG release tools or on other tooling other than exactly what we're using today. So that research would be new to us as well. And yeah, I think that one is an opportunity for high impact in the long run. But it's not as urgent or as impactful to end users as some others. So 3, I think, is a reasonable rating for it. And yeah, it's probably a lot of work. So I think that makes sense. It would be great if somebody who is familiar with SIG release as well, or who knows folks who could help from SIG release to make sure that we make good decisions there. We take it on. I knew the next one too, that's an issue that I opened. We are, as maintainers, whenever somebody makes a PR that's related to dependencies, we have to go and manually check Kubernetes. to make sure that it will be allowed in, because we don't like to get surprises when we go and try to update, customize, and keep control, and then we actually have to go through the whole release again with a dependency change because we're trying to bring in something that they've removed or that they've screened out, or even just the wrong version. So to eliminate that sort of risk, we should make a CI check that actually works the same way the upstream one that we're subject to works. And that's something that I think somebody could jump in and help us with fairly clear, and would be helpful. It's probably low medium effort. I could go either way on that. It's like replicating a check that already exists. Probably a fair amount of code. It's not trivial. I could just keep going with a couple more. Integer keys is a really old issue that has existed, I think, at least since the KML switchover in the last version 3 version. Yeah, that's the version of it. It's unfortunately not super straightforward to fix. There have been a number of attempted fixes for specific situations, but it's certainly a painful issue for our users. So yeah, it's difficult, definitely at least medium effort, very valuable. Yeah, this could be anywhere from medium to high. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure. It depends on the code, I guess, which we're not that familiar with.
Yeah. We can look at that way for now. The next one is a KML issue. I think it's probably fairly straightforward. I'm actually, for this one, I'd like to change the value down to 3. It's kind of a niche case that we've never handled, but that's strictly speaking, we should. It's not a regression or anything. It's just a non-compliance with the specification.
That makes sense.
KML is a little tricky to work in this part, like in the patching code in particular. It can take a while to get your head wrapped around, but so that would be where the effort is, not so much the actual implementation of the patch strategy, I think. But the resulting amount of code is probably going to be pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
Removing quotes is very similar to the it's going to be underlyingly a KML issue almost certainly as well, similar to the integer problem. So it's a commonly reported issue. Value 5 makes sense to me. Yeah, all of these I'm torn on between medium and high. These ones that are sort of in the bowels of KML, that the problem is originating from.
I think it might require some scoping to give it an accurate effort label.
I guess one thing, so this is a new rating system that we're trying out this year. And it seems like it might be very effortful, but in comparison to something like making a Helm support plan and standing up the care and functions registry, I mean, that's enormous, and it's definitely not that big. So maybe I should think of it that way instead, in which case medium makes total sense.
We can also change effort to some sort of like size. That's what we sometimes do on our other projects, like small, medium, large, and then that we can do like extra large, extra large for the really big ones. But we can revisit that later as well.
I think this is good.
Okay. I can do the next one. So the YAML v3 fork maintenance story, we're currently maintaining an internal fork in the Kustomize repo of the Go YAML v3 library, which is not great. So we're in the middle of creating an official fork under the SIG, Kubernetes SIG YAML library, which fingers crossed will hopefully be done in the next couple of weeks. And then we can get rid of our internal fork. I put effort as medium, kind of taking into account the whole thing, but the amount of effort that's left is pretty low. And I think the value is pretty high, so that we don't have an entire fork in our repo.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, the next one, customizes embedded OpenAPI data, should cover a wide range of Kubernetes releases. We're currently embedding one single version of the Kubernetes OpenAPI data, so it's very hard to retain both removed resources and newly added ones. But if we could embed multiple versions, then we wouldn't have that problem. We already have some support in Kustomize code for multiple versions. I think the challenge would mostly be talking to people from kubectl to make sure that they would accept multiple versions of the OpenAPI data. Last time we tried, they didn't want to vendor in multiple large files with duplicate data.
Yeah, so this issue was actually trying to suggest something else, which is
Oh.
that we could modify our update scripts to generate an OpenAPI set that, rather than being exactly what you would get from a given API server, is a superset of resources for multiple OpenAPI schemas.
Okay, I did
So
not read this issue carefully.
No, that's okay. So
Okay.
yeah, that would be, it would involve like a less straightforward answer to what version of the OpenAPI is this. It would be a range, and it would involve some sort of just wrangling of the schema documents, which might be a little annoying. But I think this is a kind of a nice independent task for that someone would pick up, and it could have a big impact on our ability to, like, we get a lot of support burden from people trying to use API versions that we don't support.
That would be awesome if someone can pick that up. I guess the scripts are currently in Bash, so if someone wanted to do that in Bash, that's fine. Otherwise, they'd have to convert it, everything to some other language.
We generally only use Bash or Go, but we do have a precedent for tools being written as, I forget where exactly in the repo they are, but like Go release, they're not Go releaser. Some of our release tools are like packages somewhere in our repo that get built. Go mod something. What's that one called?
Go. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember.
There's one that like scrapes all of the dozens of modules that we have and like adjusts our dependencies. Yeah, that's essentially like a Go scripting tool that is built from our own repo. There's a handful of things like that. This could be, you know, if it's more complicated, then we should be using Bash for them. We could do that.
Okay, great. So effort, I put medium. It might be high, depending on, like, it'll be a lot of parsing, like string parsing, file parsing.
I was actually inclined to go with low,
Low.
relative to some of these other issues. Like, I think it is maybe a little bit of a nitpicky task, but compared to like fixing integer support across all of our transformers and making sure that works or whatever, like, it's pretty straightforward. Like, there's
That's true.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Okay. And value 5, I could go with 4 or 5 on this one.
Yeah, I feel the same. 4.5.
it's we are on a very, like, it's becoming increasingly urgent, I guess. It would be very nice to have this done sometime this year, because we just checked what version we're embedding, and it's very old at this point. And at some point somebody's going to want a resource from a more recent version that we can't just pick up using our current strategies.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, the next one, graduate, customize, localize to beta. So like maybe a month ago, we released this new command, customize, localize. It's currently an alpha command. There are some specific requirements that we set for graduating it to beta. And there are also some additional like user feedback, user requests that we should take a look at as part of that. So I think this one is fairly approachable. Most of the design is already done. It's just about implementing some of the last few features. So I set the effort to medium. I could be convinced to move it to low. But it is a tricky bit of code, I think.
And Anna is looking for help with that.
I don't think Anna will have time for it, but we can ask her when she's back.
Okay, I'm fine with this for now. We only have 1 minute left. This next one is another good, like, anyone can help with this problem. It's a little tricky to figure out how to improve it, but our error messages in a lot of cases are terrible. And in particular, they're terrible because they're always talking about this long path to the root directory as part of the message, and that might be totally irrelevant to what the error message is, and it really clogs it up and makes it difficult to understand, and yeah, it causes a great deal of user pain. So that's an interesting small project to figure out what approach we could take to being better about that, in light of, there is a reason why that's happening, related to remote resource discovery, I believe, not knowing exactly what the problem is. So we need to teach Kustomize to be better aware of what the actual problem, where it really is coming from, so that it can eliminate that part of the error message when it's not relevant. But that's a nice little project that would be really impactful. And with that, we're out of time. Was this interesting for folks, the going through the roadmap?
Yeah, I certainly appreciated it. It's good to have the context.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's really good to know what priority things are as well.
Okay, that's great feedback. So that's something that's new to our effort this year. We could see if there's time to continue this in a future SIG CLI meeting, because the bug scrub won't happen again for another month. Otherwise, we could see about like scheduling a dedicated meeting to go over it together, to have time to finish it as a larger group. We don't want to leave it pending for too long, so we might explore other options like sending it out to the mailing list once we're happy with the last few items. All right, anyway, we're out of time, so thank you everyone for coming today to this bug scrub and roadmap review for Kustomize. I hope it was valuable to you, and I hope to see you again next time.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.